Hello, I'm Jeremy Vine, and this is Panorama. On the eve of his first visit to Britain, the Pope under pressure on paedophile priests.
Obviously, I had an inclination to improper conduct with children.
The victims of abuse who've lost their faith.
So many children's lives were ruined into their adulthood.
And their demands for a personal apology from the Pope himself.
Not one time did they ever take immediate or decisive action to make known what they knew in their secret files.
We are just 3 days away from the first papal visit to these shores in 28 years. But Pope Benedict will arrive in the middle of one of the biggest crises the Catholic Church has ever faced, the sexual abuse of children by paedophile priests. The Pope has, of course, already apologized on behalf of the Church to victims around the world. But what of his personal role in the scandal? What did the Pope know about some notorious cases when he was an archbishop and a top Vatican official? Fergal Keane investigates.
He's the leader of a church with more than 1 billion followers worldwide. Before Joseph Ratzinger became Pope, he held 2 key positions. First as Archbishop of Munich in his native Germany, then as a powerful cardinal in the Vatican. This is the story of how he dealt with several paedophile priests on his path to the top of the Catholic Church. The United States, where the Church has paid out more than $1 billion to the victims of sexual abuse, has been at the center of the scandal. Here, the crucial issue is how Joseph Ratzinger reacted when bishops asked him to remove some abusers from the priesthood. By the time the cases reached him in Rome, these men were already undergoing disciplinary proceedings here. The issue at stake is whether the then Cardinal Ratzinger acted speedily and vigorously, or whether he put the interests of the Church before those of the victims.
This marks the beginning of videotape number 1 of the deposition of Stephen Keesley, taken on behalf for the attorneys for the plaintiffs.
This is Father Stephen Keesley giving evidence to a victim's lawyer. His case would eventually find its way to the office of Cardinal Ratzinger.
Did you use as an outlet, as one of the outlets for your sexual urges that you had as a young man, that you would...
The case of Father Keesley happened when the Pope was already a high Vatican official, taking decisions about events many thousands of miles away. But there is another story, and it happened when he was a younger man, asked to take a decision about a priest in his own country. The priest who first came to Joseph Ratzinger's attention in 1979 was Father Peter Ullermann. Back then, Joseph Ratzinger was Archbishop of Munich, and Ullermann a priest 300 miles away in Essen. One of Ullermann's earliest victims was Wilfried Fesselmann, who was 11 years old when he met the priest at a youth group.
He ordered me to say certain things. For example, what do you call your genitals? I said, I don't have any name for it, because I was still only 11 then. So he said, well, think of something, like Willy, words for it, like that. And then it carried on. He gave me something alcoholic to drink. He said, drink that. And then he just undressed and told me to get undressed as well.
Were you able to tell your parents about what had happened?
My parents were strict Catholics back then, and I knew, well, you couldn't talk to them about something like that. because you couldn't say anything against the church. We'd been brought up strictly as Catholics.
But others did tell. The parents of 3 children who were also abused by Ullermann took their allegations here to the diocese in September 1979. It was what happened next that brought the Ullermann case before the man who is now Pope Benedict. Ullermann was removed from his post and the local church decided to send him for therapy. The police were not informed at the parents' request, according to the man who now speaks for the church in Essen.
We were then wondering how we could best deal with him, and at that time we heard about a possibility of therapy in Munich. And then we made contact with the Archdiocese of Munich and Freising and inquired whether it would be possible that they take in Ullermann for a specific period so that he could attend a course of therapy.
2 of Archbishop Ratzinger's senior officials read the letter requesting therapy. The letter sent here to Munich didn't use the word paedophile, nor did it spell out the offences. But it did say, Father Ullermann presented a danger that caused us to withdraw him immediately from pastoral work. It also suggested legal difficulties, and that he should be sent to teach in a girls' school. On January 15th, 1980, here at the headquarters of the Munich Archdiocese, Joseph Ratzinger chaired a regular meeting of his senior officials. There was a busy agenda, issues about the care of immigrants and recently deceased priests, and item 5D, the future of Father Peter Ullermann. But the Archbishop's officials knew Ullermann represented a danger. After just 5 days' treatment, he was sent as a priest to a parish about 20 miles from Munich. When the psychiatrist who treated him found out, he immediately alerted one of Archbishop Ratzinger's senior officials.
The risk of reoffending was undoubtedly so high that it would have been impossible for Ullermann to continue doing any parish work. And I explained this to the local bishop.
His advice was ignored. 27 years after his abuse of Wilfried Fesselmann, the priest was still working with children, despite a conviction for child abuse in 1986. He wasn't banned by the church from contact with children until 2008.
I saw there that he was conducting masses and working with children. And obviously I was really shocked, because I remembered my own story from back in 1979. And yes, it all came back to me. Well, everything was there again. And I just thought, oh God, I hope he won't have carried on doing what he'd been doing back then.
Ullermann was only finally suspended from the priesthood 6 months ago. The Vatican told Panorama Cardinal Ratzinger knew nothing of the decision to transfer Father Ullermann. And the official who approved the transfer told us the decision was his alone. In the worst years of the abuse crisis, there was no encouragement from the Vatican to report abuser priests to the police. Lawyers in America say senior leaders, including Cardinal Ratzinger, should have made such reporting mandatory.
Not one time did they ever take immediate or decisive action to make known what they knew in their secret files to law enforcement, and to send a clear, unequivocal message to the police that there was a predator in the community wearing a collar and abusing kids.
However, a culture of silence wasn't the only issue. As one leading Catholic commentator told me, the church believed it could rehabilitate and redeem the abusers.
The solution was not immediately to expel them from the priesthood and to punish them. the first instinct was to try and deal with the problem. And at the time, the psychological profession said this was a treatable condition. And so the first instinct of bishops was to send the priests for therapy.
Only a small number of these abuse cases were ever sent to Cardinal Ratzinger, but those that were didn't end in the distant 1970s and 80s. This is Arizona, where the Catholic Church has deep historical roots.
Fergal Keane reporting there. And when the Pope went to America and Malta recently, he met victims of sexual abuse, promising them the Church was doing all it could to investigate allegations and to introduce measures to safeguard young people in the future. It's thought that after he arrives here on Thursday, he will be meeting British victims too. Next week, should council chiefs, head teachers, top policemen, even the BBC's own bosses get paid more than the Prime Minister? We reveal the public sector rich list and ask, are they really worth it?
If you or someone you know would benefit from a list of organisations offering help and support for victims of abuse, you can call the BBC Action Line in confidence on 0800 077 077. Calls are free from a landline. Mobile operators